While the nation is reeling from the shock of the verdict in the Sean Bell case, in the Hudson Valley there have been a number of deaths at the hands of police in the city of Newburgh, 5 in the past 2 years, that have not even resulted in charges, let alone acquittals. And all of this based almost exclusively upon police testimony about what happened that resulted in the deaths of these 5 young men. But a case in Newburgh City Court earlier this month involving 3 young white men has put these other cases back in the spotlight, as the police were caught lying on the witness stand and in their official reports by a videotape. I'm standing outside the Newburgh City Court. Inside is a trial in the Fahey case, and Attorney Michael Sussman had just finished examining a police officer whose testimony previously and whose police reports were at great odds with the videotape that was produced by the defense of the incident that was reported on and testified to. The district attorney, the assistant district attorney who's handling the case, apparently was more interested in assisting the officer to get through the testimony than in dealing with the obvious perjury and false reporting that was done by the officer, who was tripped up more or less in almost every statement of fact or alleged fact that existed in the report and in his prior testimony. This is where the van was.
Out. The man was further up, didn't bluff the pumps like this, it was more over here. They dragged him out, they beat one man on this side, and they dragged the other man out on this side. The blood was in this area, they used this bucket over here, so there's a bucket, and they poured the bucket over the blood. Here's the bucket. That's the bucket they took, and in this area on the film you can see them dumping the bucket over the blood and using a squeegee move the blood. We go across the street. This gentleman testified that from inside there, he was able to see inside the store. It is absolutely impossible. The police said that Mr. Carlson was not bleeding inside, but he started bleeding outside the van. These are photographs inside the van, showing Carlson's blood inside the van. Here's the door of the van open. This is inside the van. On the back of the seat, he was bleeding inside. He was attacked inside the van. You can see the blood. These are pictures inside the van, actually. This is Fahey. Fahey's the one who was beaten by the lieutenant right out near that first pump. His eye, you can see his ear. He was smashed in the eye and the face. You can see this area of his eye and face, as well as more obviously perhaps this area and this area. And the police indicated that during the trial, this man injured himself by knocking his head against a grate area inside of what's called the fishbowl at the booking area in the police precinct. You watch for about an hour when he's in the fishbowl, and you never see his head making any contact with that grate. And there's actually a camera right on the grate, and there's never any contact made between his head and that grate. He's angry. He's kicking the grate because he doesn't understand why he's in there. But that's about as far as it went. This is a report which was provided. It's called The Primary Narrative. It was written by Michael Saldano, who was one of the junior police officers there. He wrote that upon arrival at the headquarters, A1, who's this gentleman, Mr. Fahey, quote, became so violent, kicking and attempting to destroy department property, he was temporarily placed in a fishbowl while still secured with handcuff restraints. Untrue. The videotape shows that this man did not destroy any department property, did not try to, did not start kicking, did not get violent at all. At one point, after about 7 minutes in the facility, in the booking room, he stood up and started talking with an individual who then forcibly sat him down. And a few moments later, you see him being pushed into this fishbowl area. When I asked this man, where did he get this information that he attempted to destroy departmental property, and what property, he said somebody else told him. When you asked who, he didn't know who. Further says here, A3, which is a reference to Mr. Carlson, the gentleman whose blood is on the car here, says this: began to throw punches at Officers Rose and Akampura as soon as his handcuffs were removed while in booking. And we have the removal of the handcuffs on the videotape, and it shows his handcuffs were removed. He didn't throw a punch at anybody. He just very calmly walked behind this gentleman, Mr. Rose, or the police officer, over toward a sink area in the booking. This is a total fabrication. And when asked about this fabrication, Rose couldn't explain why this was in the report. Akampura was never called as a witness. The writer, Saldano, doesn't know where he got the information. And this went on in that kind of a manner.
A videotape of the interviews, including the pictures being referenced by Mr. Sussman, and the scene, is available at YouTube at www.youtube.com under Newburgh Police and Suspicious Deaths. Again, that's www.youtube.com under Newburgh Police and Suspicious Deaths. We have been following this for the past 18 months, and we will continue to do so until justice is served. From the Hudson Valley, I'm Don DeBar.
2007 at 1:48 a.m. in the City of Newburgh Police Department. I'm going to sit at this table. I'm going to run this, and I'm going to basically narrate based on the testimony we heard at the trial. I'm going to tell you who the people are, and hopefully you'll be able to see for yourselves what's going on. I want to note that Mr. Carlson, one of the individuals, is here to my left, and this first tape is largely about what Mr. Carlson went through. Okay, you'll be able to see for yourself what went down. Some of the images may bother you. You're not in a courtroom. If it bothers you, you can exclaim, do whatever you feel like you need to do. You're not in the courtroom now. Nobody's holding you in contempt for speaking out or saying whatever you feel like you need to say. Hello, folks. How are you? We may need more chairs, but again, we'll do the best we can. All right, I'm going to ask Mr. DeBar to start this. This is followed, just so everybody has a context, we're going to see the street scene later. This follows the arrest of 3 individuals by a number of Newburgh police officers, and you'll see some of that from the Sitco tapes in a little while. The first individual brought into the station is a Mr. Tompkins. You do not see Mr. Tompkins at this point. The next individual brought in is Mr. Carlson. Mr. Carlson's a gentleman over here on the left, and you will see him coming into the station. Please shut your phones off. Now, if you look, ladies and gentlemen, at these 4 panels, the left panel shows a booking room, and I'm going to use this cursor. This is the cursor, if you can see the cursor. This is a door from a garage area. When individuals are brought in, they come through and they walk through the booking area as I'm walking. This also is a view of the booking area, this area. This is a bench. This African-American gentleman is sitting on a bench, and you'll see him through much of this in different positions. This down here is the communications room. This up here is an area called the fishbowl, which is off the communications room. And this comes into play later. So we're going to start running this, please. And please keep your eye on the time. It's 1:48 and it'll run now in real time till we stop it. All right, that's good. This is an officer, Akampura, who's apparently in charge of this detainee at this point in time. And you'll watch through this you'll see a gentleman will be entering here. Police officer and detainee, that's Carlson. That'll happen shortly. And you can see these are different angles of the same room. It's now 1:48:42. You see a booking process going on here with Officer Akampora and the gentleman in the white. This room looks on these screens bigger than it actually is. During the trial, we had a tour of the booking area. It's not a very large area. Now you can see right here, 1:49:19, times become relevant later. You see the individual police officer. And there's Mr. Carlson. You can see he's cuffed behind his back and he sat down right here on the bench. The officer accompanying him is Officer Rose. Now watch carefully. Officer Rose is putting on his gloves. At this point in time, by all accounts, Mr. Carlson has a severe cut from which he's bleeding over his right eye, and the blood has been dripping and going into his mouth, and he's spitting blood. He stands up. His hands are cuffed behind his back. It's 1:50 in the morning. The officer is basically here on top of him looking like this blue clump. You'll see the officer rise, and Mr. Carlson will sprawl. And you'll see Mr. Carlson attempt to get up, and you'll see what happens. Stop it at that point, please. Okay, it's 1:50:29. We're stopping it for a moment. The trial testimony was from Officer Rose that he did that because Mr. Carlson was spitting at him. And when he was asked what he was spitting, he said he was spitting blood. Please proceed. Here you can see, down here, 1:50:44. You see Mr. Carlson up here. You see what's going on for yourselves. It's Officer Rose with Mr. Carlson. Mr. Carlson's cuffed behind the back through all of what you just saw. When shown this at the trial, the lieutenant indicated that he fully supported this behavior and thought it was totally appropriate. Sworn testimony at the trial. And by the way, these tapes are in real time playing in the communications room. The communications room is the room down here. We did a tour of that room, and as well, the tapes are recording and playing in real time. The lieutenant's name was Peter Leach. He was in charge of this shift. You can see Mr. Carlson remaining on the bench. You see a garbage can here that comes up later, so I'm just showing you where it is. You can see it in the cursor up here, upper right-hand corner. This is Mr. Fahey. Officer Saldano and Mr. Fahey. Officer Saldano, Mr. Fahey. Mr. Fahey takes a seat. It's 152, 42. It was testified to by Leach, the lieutenant, that this gentleman, Fahey, repeatedly stood up and violently behaved. You saw him come in at 152. Watch for yourself the video. The official police report reads as follows. Upon arrival to headquarters, A1 is Mr. Fahey. Mr. Fahey is this gentleman you see seated here. Became so violent, kicking and attempting to destroy departmental property. He was placed in the bowl area. That's that area. He's been there about a minute so far. Watch him the entire time he's there. Form your own conclusions. The testimony is this gentleman, Mr. Carlson, had blood dripping down his head, literally into his mouth, on his face. When asked about calling medical attention for this gentleman, Lieutenant Leach rather cavalierly said, "I think I asked him if he wanted something at the scene. I don't know." This is Officer Soldano, Officer Akampora, who, as I said earlier, had nothing particularly to do with this arrest, or these arrests. The lieutenant gave testimony on direct testimony about what was happening in here during this period of time. Then he admitted he wasn't in here. He wasn't in the communications room watching and had no direct knowledge of what was going on. Yet he gave direct testimony under direct examination about what was going on. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, what you saw earlier with Rose laying hands on Carlson, Rose knew that he was being taped. He knew there was a tape system going on in this police department. We're going to be watching this particular segment for about 8 or 10 more minutes, just so you have some idea. You can see how violent Mr. Fahey is, how he's kicking and destroying property, can't you? In testimony, two of the officers, Soldano and Leach, under oath, said that this gentleman, Fahey, was kicking at this garbage can, destroying the garbage can. When I showed Lieutenant Leach this and ran it through for him, he said actually Fahey was kicking a garbage can on this side of the room, or a laundry basket. This garbage can or some laundry basket he claimed was over here, none of which you'll see happens. It's now 1:57, approximately 5 minutes after this gentleman entered the room, and he has not stood up, by my account. Okay, now watch carefully, please, in the next few minutes. And that, again, I'm pointing directly to Mr. Fahey, and this is Mr. Carlson on his right. You see the police officers in the communications room in a circle. You see Mr. Fahey lean forward. Mr. Fahey now stands up. It's 1:58:45. Saldana was to his left. This is Leith right here. He's lieutenant. Fahey was beaten, as you'll see later. He's spitting as well, blood on the floor. You see him standing. Here are his feet. It's 2 o'clock. Just watch, you'll see exactly what happens. Here's Mr. Fahey sitting. That's Officer Saldana, who just walked to the back. Officer Akampura was to the left. This is Saldana in the fishbowl area, readying the fishbowl area for this individual. Stop the tape, please. That's Lieutenant Leach, who's ordering this individual, Mr. Fahey, into the fishbowl. The report says as follows, the police report. Upon arrival at headquarters, this gentleman, Fahey, became so violent, kicking and attempting to destroy departmental property. He was temporarily placed in the bowl area. That's this area. Still secured with handcuff restraints. This is an area that's used for highly incorrigible individuals. You saw the behavior yourselves. Please play on. Now what will come up in the next couple of minutes may be a bit shocking to some of you, so just please watch it. We'll stop it at one point for some narration. Mr. Carlson is here, remaining on the bench. You see Mr. Fahey now in this fishbowl area. This is Mr. Carlson on the bench. You can see he doesn't appear to have a shirt on. You see that this wastebasket is now being moved by one of the officers closer to him so he can spit his blood directly into it. That's a testimony at the trial. Shortly you'll see Officer Rose come back over this direction to Mr. Carlson. And you'll see him unhandcuff him hand by hand. And then we'll stop it and I'll read something to you. This is the fishbowl area where Mr. Fahey is. This is Mr. Rose walking toward Mr. Carlson. He directs Mr. Carlson up. Mr. Carlson stands up, tries to stand up. Now you can see the officer releasing one handcuff at a time. And watch carefully, please. And you see the hand, you see one arm here, Mr. Carlson, you see the other hand and arm right here. Now remember, this is all being recorded in real time and is available for inspection. Stop it right there. I'm reading now from the official departmental report of the incident. A3 Carlson, quote, began to throw punches at Officer Rose and Akampora as soon as his handcuffs were removed while in booking. Play it.
Isn't perjury a crime?
Just let's proceed. You'll have a chance later to ask questions and make whatever other comments you want.
All
right, wait a minute.
You got a murder. Ran a man down and killed him.
Okay, hold on.
He burns me like my blood boil.
All right, I understand their emotions are high. Please just watch and calm yourselves down as best you can. Just come on. Just please. Okay, it's 2:03:25, and what just happened is that Mr. Carlson was walked to an area, this is a better way to look at it, to a sink area. The sink is obscured by this, what I'm pointing to on the lower left. Mr. Rose, one of the police officers, another police officer, Mr. Soldano, and the third police officer is in this general area. Now, this is going to take a couple of moments to unfold, and some of what you're going to see again is going to be upsetting to you, so just watch it and be prepared. Mr. Carlson, who's here, can speak for himself, but in essence, what I understand is that he was bleeding from the face, he had blood on his face, and he did not want to wash the blood off the face. He wanted the judge to see him when he was arraigned in the condition that he'd been rendered by the police. So he was basically washing his hands but not washing his face. You can see right here, standing in what really is about 15 feet, is Officer Rose. He's against a part of the booking area. There's a door near here, and that's where he is. You'll see here Carlson comes to the middle of the room, a little bit toward the middle of the room, off of the sink, and he seems to be talking to a police officer here. Carlson's back in this area toward the sink and now proceeds more, as you'll see, to about over here where the cursor is. And there's a conversation now betwixt these two men, Rose and Carlson, and watch. You'll see Rose point with his left hand directly out, put his hand down, point again, points again. Just watch, please. Rose comes toward Carlson, pushes Carlson. Now you have to watch up here next. This Carlson. Kind of in a fetal position here. There are 3 or 4 police officers around him. He's being dragged now. Okay? Now, we're going to go to the next video, which is called Cell Blocks. So just give us a moment to get that video on. While we're changing that, let me tell you this. The lieutenant wrote nothing about any of this in his police report. The lieutenant's report states, officer transported above-stated arrestees, plural, to police headquarters and booked them on above-stated charges. While Soldano testified that there was a departmental requirement, as did Rose, that any time you laid hands on an inmate or detainee, you had to write a report, no such reports were prepared. With regard to the police report, which is called the primary narrative, written by Soldano, authored into evidence and therefore a public record, the following appears. A3, which is Carlson, began to throw punches at officers Rose and Akampura as soon as his handcuffs were removed while in booking. The situation was eventually neutralized. After a brief physical altercation, he was placed in lockup until he calmed down. Are we on cell block?
I'm loading.
Loading it, okay. Okay, now you're going to see here, it's 20641, it's in order, in essence, and you're going to see, that's the fishbowl, that's where Mr. Fahey is. In a couple of, very shortly, you're going to see down here some activity. If you don't mind, turn your cell phones off if you can, unless you have an emergency. That's right. Now you saw Mr. Fahey, Mr. Carlson was being dragged, and he was being dragged out a door which leads directly into this cell block area. So you will see the continuation, essentially, of the dragging, and you can again judge for yourself what's going on. Here you go. The officer's account is that they were pulling his belt off because they felt he might be a suicide risk. Meanwhile, Mr. Fahey, cognizant of what's going on, was becoming more agitated in the fishbowl area. And you can see him beginning to pace, and he was conscious that something was going askew. You can see 4 or 5 officers at different times in this area with Mr. Carlson. Now let me just stop this. This goes on for a short while, but let's just stop this for now. At the trial, all of this that you've seen so far was introduced by the people of the state of New York. The people of the state of New York believe this testimony that's shown here showed the proclivity or tendency of the defendants to engage in violent conduct. That's the theory. They offered that, what you just saw. Okay? It's rather shocking any prosecutor would have offered that into evidence. They offered it into evidence. I argued that it was irrelevant. It was irrelevant to show that these individuals committed any of the crimes for which they were accused. I was surprised the judge let it in. Now we're going to take a very brief momentary recess. We have to load in the Citgo tape. This is the tape of what preceded the booking room. I don't know how long it'll take. It should take a moment. The outdoor Citgo tape.
Oh, that's this, right? That's the one they brought?
Yes.
Okay. Might take a moment, might take forever. I've never done
Well,
this.
you have the tape.
Yeah,
you
I
have
have
the tape as well.
Yeah. Let's see what happens.
Just hold the seat for a moment.
Let's try this first. Might as well give this a go, right?
Usually go to
Cool, yeah.
Bring that up when we discuss it.
No, you want
Okay, what I want to do.
go to play.
All right, now just so you understand the setting, it's about 1:25 in the morning. You have a van. The van has a number of individuals. The best we can understand is 6 individuals. The individuals have had too much to drink. Pretty clear they have had too much to drink. They go to a Sunoco station. The Sunoco station does not sell beer. They go catty-corner across the street, driving their vehicle into the Citgo station. You'll see they park at the Citgo station. They then rearrange their car.
Oh, it says
The gentleman who's running the Citgo station does not call the police. He knows these individuals. He's not particularly bothered by what's going on according to his courtroom testimony. The gentleman across the street in the Sunoco station has called the police. The police arrive first at the Sunoco station, realizing these individuals have gone across the street. The police then come across the street. First one on the scene appears to be Rose, then Saldano, McGuire, Leach, in that order as we understand it, or roughly that order. The testimony on order was confused at the trial.
3? No,
No, it's not there.
it's not there. Okay. I should we use the disc.
Put the disc in.
Okay. Sorry about that. Pop that. You can have that back. Take a disc.
Now at the Citgo, just so you're clear, there are 3 different cameras. One of the cameras is called the back view. It's a small, again, it's a small area. One is a front view, which shows the counter and the areas near the counter. And the third is an outdoor camera that goes right onto the parking lot and area we've pumped.
That's the other signal.
Okay, we're going to be focusing right now on the outdoor scene.
Getting there.
Now again, some of these images may be disturbing to you. I'm warning you in advance.
Loading. Where is it? That one? That MPEG? Cannot open this. Do this. Okay, we'll get there. Hang on, it'll be in
So I
one of
said
them.
use the other CD, maybe that one.
No, this is a different. It shows something else. Yeah.
For some reason.
Hold on. We'll get there. We'll get there. Let's go back to no. Is that it? Is that going to run it? Yeah, I think we got it. No? See about right click, open autoplay. Okay, let's see what that does. Play video CD. Okay.
This is not the beginning. Can we get to the beginning?
Hang on, yeah, hang on, I gotta shrink it too. And move it around so it's centered properly and all that. Give me 1 second. There we go.
Okay.
You wanna go to the beginning?
Go to the beginning if we can, so people can actually get the best sense they can.
This is the beginning of this.
That's the beginning?
It's the beginning of what this is.
Okay. All right, that's Mr. Fahey. Mr. Fahey. That's Leach. You're going to have to go back so you can see that again. It's not the clearest here.
Back.
Is that all you have on that?
Did I could probably grow it to fill that screen a little more.
Mr. Fahey's eating popcorn out of a popcorn bag he bought inside. He's out of the vehicle. Lieutenant Leach approaches him. You can see Lieutenant Leach. Lieutenant Leach opens the door with his left arm and then pushes Mr. Fahey to the ground. A number of officers come over at this point. And on this side of the vehicle, Mr. Fahey is arrested, handcuffed, by his account, stopped there. He's pushed over here, as you can see. The force, it's not very clear, unfortunately, on this image. The testimony by Mr. Leach was that Mr. Fahey violently lunged toward him. We'll show it to you again. Go back. There you can see Mr. Fahey. Lieutenant Leach is coming in this direction. Here he is. Boom. The judge saw that image in a better quality about 20 times during the trial. Officer Leach, Lieutenant Leach, testified that, there you can see further, that there was this lunging toward him violently. The tape was played probably 10 times while he was on the witness stand. He was asked to show the lunge or any part of the lunge and obviously couldn't do so. There was no lunge. What occurred was he, with his left forearm and body, went directly into Mr. Fahey, pushing Mr. Fahey to the ground. The report, we can stop this for a moment, says Fahey proceeded to remain seated, you saw him out of the vehicle, and begin to drink a beer. He then stated, excuse the language, "Yo, fuck you," and began to come at Lieutenant Leahy with his fists closed, attempting to engage in a physical confrontation. Now, anybody watching that, and you can replay it, sees the distance that's covered between the two men is covered by Leach. Fahey's not coming toward Leach. Fahey is standing, eating popcorn, as you'll see, and Leach covers the ground and then takes an aggressive action toward the civilian. Is it playing?
Oh, sorry. Thought it was playing. Yeah.
Okay. Remember, the report says that this gentleman was sitting in the rear of the van as Lieutenant Leach advised him to leave. He proceeded to remain seated and began to drink a beer. You can see what he's doing, eating popcorn out of a bag of popcorn. Boom. Now we're going to play it through. Other things develop here. I'm sorry the quality of this shot is not as clear as it was in the court. They had very good equipment, which Sergeant Lee played over and over again in the court. It says here, Leach with his, Fahey began to come at Leach with his fists closed, attempting to engage in a physical confrontation. Lieutenant Leach defended himself, pushed S2, Fahey away. Fahey lost his balance and fell to the ground. That's the account, the official account of that interaction. Now, as this proceeds, and this gentleman was charged based on that interaction with disorderly conduct, obstructing governmental administration, harassment, and resisting arrest. All of those charges were dismissed, found not guilty. The judge did not believe that Mr. Fahey had initiated a physical confrontation or done anything to cause him being charged. You cannot be guilty of resisting arrest if there's no predicate or basis for the initial arrest. The judge found there was no basis for Fahey's arrest. At this point, these individual police officers are searching this vehicle to see what's in the vehicle, and they come upon Mr. Carlson in the back of the vehicle. Mr. Carlson is drunk, he's asleep, he's out of it, in the back, right here. The testimony at trial, stop the video for a moment, by Saldano, you may want to watch me since you won't be able to see it, was that Mr. Carlson was shaken, awake, and went like this. And Saldano showed his fist equal to my right shoulder. Went like this and stopped himself. The testimony by Leach, who's on the right side, is he went in the car to try to wake him, he was shaking him, and it went like this. And I just swung my arm all the way around. And barely missed him, which caused Leach and the other officers to basically throw Carlson out of the vehicle. Carlson claims that he was struck on the head. I told you earlier, you saw the blood and them bringing over that wastebasket to him. Carlson says that he was literally smashed in the head by Leach, causing that injury in the vehicle. And he has photographs, which were never introduced at the trial, showing the blood all over the inside of the vehicle, which totally contradicts the police account of where he was injured. The police deny he was injured inside and say he sustained an injury when he fell to the ground. He fell to the ground outside the vehicle on the driver's side. We'll play it and you can see for yourself whatever you can see. Watch the vehicle shake. The police officers asked these individuals to move the vehicle. The individuals acknowledging that they were intoxicated, did not want a DWI, did not move the vehicle. The testimony at the trial was that the police, and this is by Leach himself, didn't move the vehicle 10 feet because the head of the service station said, just move the vehicle to the side. It can stay overnight. They've done this before. They live a few blocks away. Put the vehicle on the side. There's a side of the station on both sides that the vehicle could have been kept. And that was perfectly okay with the service station manager. Rather than do that, the keys were on the seat. Lieutenant Leach said he didn't want to move the vehicle because he didn't like how they were behaving. And therefore he didn't move the vehicle. Had the vehicle been moved, the gentleman would have proceeded home. That would have been the end of the incident. Now Mr. Carlson is out of the vehicle on the right side. He's being cuffed. Mr. Carlson was charged for harassment, obstructing governmental administration, disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, all charges which derived allegedly from what he did inside the vehicle. And there's no tape of what happened inside the vehicle. The judge rejected all those charges, found there was not proof beyond a reasonable doubt based on the contradictory testimony of the police officers as to what went on in the vehicle. As I said, one police officer made it seem like a punch was actually thrown toward Mr. Leach. The other police officer acknowledged that had not happened in real life. And he says he was standing 2 feet away. Does that mean verbal harassment?
Is that against the law?
Well, I'll read you the charge so we don't have any speculation.
Stop it.
You can play it. I'm going to find the charge. The harassment charged here was that he put the gentleman in fear. He put the gentleman in fear of his bodily well-being. Now, there's a third individual who is involved in this case beyond Carlson and Fahey, and he's in a police vehicle over about in this area. This is Mr. Tompkins. Mr. Tompkins, earlier tape shows, was here at the front of the vehicle. He was arguing with the police. He was telling the police he was not going to move the vehicle. None of them were going to move the vehicle at that point, because if they got in the car to move the vehicle, the police would arrest them for DWI. So they were not willing to move the vehicle. This individual was arrested for that confrontation. The police testified that there were people who slowed down on Broadway, which made that display of arguing, quote, disorderly conduct, because it threatened to cause some sort of lodge or some sort of problem in the street. That's disorderly conduct. It's disorderly because it has the potential to cause a melee or some sort of problem. So the way they tried to prove that was by saying people slowed down on Broadway, which is over here, and two people over here came out of their apartments and stood on a deck. During the trial, the testimony was that no one could link what Tompkins was doing to either of those things. The judge had no basis, therefore, for finding that arrest on disorderly conduct with any basis, and he threw that out. Tompkins was put in a police car here, and as he saw Fahey on this side and then Carlson on this side being apprehended violently by the police, he started banging his head on the police vehicle. He didn't break any glass, but according to the police testimony, he disabled the device which raised the window. So he was charged with a misdemeanor for doing that. The judge, and that was deemed to be an intentional criminal mischief by the district attorney's office. The judge found it to be a reckless criminal mischief, found him guilty, and fined him $165 or $160. The judge, explaining his sentence, acknowledged that what he did was wrong, but said that what he did was provoked by what he saw the police doing a few feet away from him to his friends. And the judge was unsympathetic to the district attorney's request for 90 days in jail for that. And as I say, fined him $160. Okay, try to rewind it if you see that part. There's also testimony at the trial that in this area, which I'm pointing to, Mr. Fahey, as he was being apprehended, Mr. Fahey hit his head, or his head was hit on the concrete, and he began bleeding, and there was blood in this general area. One of the police officers, I believe it's Saldano by his own admission, takes a bucket from right here, this is an alleged crime scene, comes over and dumps the bucket of water on the blood. Right? You see him dumping the water. So when he's asked, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm getting rid of the blood. Literally. That is shown here, although this quality display is not nearly as good as the quality we had in the courtroom. So, in essence, what happened is the police came to a situation, they were called to this situation, one by one they arrived at the situation, they faced individuals who were not responsive to what they wanted done, there was no problem solving on the scene. Rather than simply move the vehicle to a location either over here or over here on either side of the store, throw the keys back in the vehicle and leave, and say to these guys, walk home, get out of here, that wasn't done. The interesting thing is that the police encouraged the individuals to leave the scene. After arresting 3 of them, they encouraged the others to leave the scene by their own testimony. And 3 of them, including one who's here tonight, either walked or ran away from the scene and were never arrested for anything. Mr. Fahey, who was on this side, and you saw him shoved to the ground by Mr. Leach, he was arrested. Mr. Carlson was arrested, and the gentleman, Mr. Tompkins, who was up at the front, were arrested. And in the booking area, you saw the contact between Mr. Fahey and police officer Saldano and Lieutenant Leach, and more importantly, perhaps, Carlson, who initially was handcuffed, pushed out. Now, I'm going to go back to the booking area. A number of you have come in and you were not able to see that. We're going to go back to the booking area and close with a replay of that for a few minutes. Reynolds, okay. The correction, it was Officer Reynolds who testified in the trial that he's the one who went, got the bucket and threw the water over the blood. Thank you.
Which one are we doing?
We're doing the booking. Now, at the trial, a lot of people had opinions about the trial. The police chief who's in attendance tonight did not attend the trial until the verdict was delivered. The judge had asked for calm in the court. The judge delivered his verdict. The police chief got up from the court, stormed out of the court, and by the way, there were approximately 25 police officers or police employees who came to watch the verdict. Sitting, looking at the judge, very few of them had seen any part of the trial. Everyone had opinions about this. There's an editorial in the Mid-Hudson Times today. No one from that newspaper was at the trial for one moment, just so you know. The judge watched this tape for 7 days, literally. Now we're going to start, some of you didn't come in, we're going to start in the booking room again for those of you who just walked in. We're going to get this up on the 4 screens, and you'll be able again to see for yourself. This is now post, this is 148:16. We're going to play this for about 5 minutes, and you'll be able to see the initial interaction in the booking room between Mr. Carlson and the gentleman who arrested him, Officer Rose. Straighten, that's right there. That's fine. This is before the individuals have come in. This is Police Officer Akampura dealing with a detainee who you see here, who's unrelated to this incident. Mr. Carlson at the scene was handcuffed behind his back, and as you'll see him walk in, this is the booking room. This is another shot of the booking room. This is the door from the garage. The gentlemen will both walk in. You'll see the police officer, that's Rose, and you'll see Mr. Carlson handcuffed walking in. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, go ahead. Here they are walking in. You see the police officer walking ahead of the detainee. And he's directing him to a bench. He sits on the bench, and you can see his hands are behind his back. His arms are stretched out behind his back as he's sitting there. For those of you who haven't seen this, you may want to come a little bit closer. You can see Officer Rose getting his gloves on. You can see Mr. Carlson. As I said earlier, he'd been spitting blood. He stands up, and he's handcuffed behind his back at that point. And here you see the police officer on the individual detainee. Again, the detainee is cuffed at that time. That's Mr. Carlson, and that's Rose. All right, we're going to, yes. You want to rewind that and see that again? Okay, let's rewind it and show that again. With that, showing it again, we're going to end the video. I'm going to talk for about 5 minutes, and then anybody who wants to say anything will have a chance to do that. Not at that point. That's the reason.
Oh, it's still going, right? Still rewinding?
Rewind it. Now, what I said earlier that I want you just rewind. Okay. What I want people to understand about this is this gentleman, Rose, this fellow right here, knows full well that he's being taped. He knows this taping is going on in real time and can be viewed in a communications room, which is generally shown in this box. This is the storage area or file area. but every few seconds flashes the communication area, and this is in real time in there. So it's not as if he doesn't know this is being viewed. And this is the most important indictment of this police department, in my view. What you're seeing here, and the fact that he can do this with the lieutenant on duty. The chief is not on duty at this time. It's 1:49 in the morning. This is seen, or can be seen. There's another police officer right here. Play it. Mr. Marino, did you see that? You said you wanted to see it again. Were you able to see it? Okay, I want to thank all of you for coming. And I just have a couple of comments about the situation that we have in Newburgh. Police officers engage in conduct like that with individuals whose handcuffed don't belong in a police department. They don't belong in a police agency, they belong out of the police agency. As far as I know, as far as this developed trial, no charges were brought against that police officer or any of the police officers involved in this situation whatsoever. When Lieutenant Leach watched what Andy Marino, the former mayor, just asked to see again, and was asked about that situation in the courtroom on the road, he said he supported the police officer and would have helped him if he'd been in there. Now, we have two families here that I know, and there may be more, who within the last 2 years have lost members of their family in incidents involving the police department. The question of interest at this point in this community is whether the accounts by the police of those incidents can be believed. That's the question of moment. We have tapes here, and I've read to you. Those of you who saw the second incident with Mr. Carlson. Mr. Carlson was approached by Rose. And Rose goes like this, and then throws him on the floor and he's dragged. What does the report, the police report say? Carlson began to throw punches at officers Rose and Akimura as soon as his handcuffs were removed in booking. Did you all see his handcuffs removed in booking? Did you notice him walk behind the officer to the sink? Did you notice anyone throwing any punches? So the question is, what is the police department going to do about this blatant misconduct? Something or nothing? So far, nothing, except issue a statement on behalf of the police chief chastising a judge, finding that none of his charges were proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Laughable. A disgrace. The judge in this case convicted these individuals of 2 of the 11 or 12 charges. One, Mr. Carlson, was found after his pants were taken completely off when you saw him being grabbed. There was no pat down in Mr. Carlson. In terms of police protocol, police practice, how could Mr. Carlson not have been patted down such that they found marijuana in his pants only after they dragged him and saw him being dragged back to the cell? It's dangerous police practice for the police. When you apprehend and cuff someone, you do a pat-down search. Basic police practice. And a pat-down search was done, and this gentleman had these vials in his So going back to the point, how are people who've had loved ones who are now deceased in incidents involving the police, how are they to believe police accounts when we have what we have here? And what we have here is verifiable on a tape, and they still write this. The booking area where those handcuffs were taken off was being videoed, and the officer still wrote this. And when I asked the lieutenant at the trial, did you read the report? Wasn't this report directed to you? You're the lieutenant. And did you watch the video? And what did you say? He says, I never put two and two together. Put two and two together, you don't have the intellect to be a police officer or a lieutenant. Goodbye. Departmental charges should have been brought against these individuals, and they should have been fired. Period. The end for this kind of behavior. And why? They're discrediting the entire police department. Now, I tried a murder case involving the city of Newburgh about 6 or 7 years ago. And the case involved a gentleman who had a long arm. He was walking home from where he dropped his car to his house in the morning. 2:30 in the morning. The gentleman was Hispanic. He claimed that he'd been harassed by someone on the street, over and over again harassed. He didn't want to be harassed again. So what he did is he carried a trench coat, he had a long arm. Okay? And this gentleman, he claims, started harassing him, had a hammer, whatever he said. And what did he do? He pulled out his gun and he fired and killed the guy. There were allegedly between 25 and 30 civilian witnesses, south of Chambers Street. Do you know how many witnesses came to that court and testified? Take a guess. None. Why? Because of the relationship between the police agency and this community, and the district attorney's office. That's why. Very simply, why. So if you want better policing, you have to have a police agency that people can trust. And you can't trust a police agency that does this and then does nothing when it's brought up. It's that simple. It is that simple. And as this illustrates, it is not only about race. These are 3 white young men. It's not only about race. Is it worse with regard to people of color? May very well be. It's not only about race. So, a number of you are here tonight. You're from the city. A number of you I know are not from the city. I view this as a whole county problem, a whole state's problem. And one other point that needs to be mentioned tonight. In July, when the Cobb situation went down, I immediately said, this has to be taken out of the control of the Orange County District Attorney's Office. Why? Not because I hate Frank Phillips. Frank Phillips is Frank Phillips. The problem is simply this, ladies and gentlemen. To make cases, any case, the District Attorney's Office relies on the police agency in the community. They must have, there's nothing sinister about this, they must have a very close interrelationship. That's the way it works. How can that same district attorney prosecute police officers whose cases he is prosecuting and whose testimony he needs to rely upon? It makes no sense. It's impossible. It's an inherent conflict of interest. Now, with what went on tragically in Queens, Norman Siegel, the Civil Liberties Union, and others are calling for the same remedy. A statewide office which will prosecute, review, and prosecute cases of police misconduct and take that out of the local district attorney's offices and remove the conflict of interest once and for all. There has to be a widespread public outcry in New York for that. And don't personalize it. It's not this DA, that police chief, this agency, that agency, has nothing to do with it. It's an inherency. Inherency means it's institutional, it's structural, it's systemic. It's not about who the players are. Because that conflict is going to exist regardless of who the players are. You can have the best of intentions, you still have that conflict. You still have the reliance. You still have the same institutional problem. Unfortunately, tragically, those involved here in Orange County, those involved in Queens, don't step up to the plate, don't acknowledge the conflict, and again, further discredit themselves. Okay, it's enough
questions for me? Mrs. Ferry, then Mr. Figueroa, Mr. Howard.
Well, I don't understand why Judge Tolkien did not charge the officers whose testimony did not match the evidence with contempt of court and perjury right then and there. They should have been taken into custody and charged. It seems clear to me that their testimony doesn't match what we saw.
Okay. Mrs. Figueroa.
Michael, I would like to say that, that Sandra Day O'Connor, since Sandra Day O'Connor, since she left the Supreme Court, has been involved in a speaking tour across the United States to talk about the dangers of undermining the judicial process, in particular politicians, and this is with respect to politicians, attempting to discredit judges that are doing their job. It is one of the most dangerous things that can be done to our society when you undermine the judicial process in that manner. It is amazing to me that immediately following this trial, the judge bent over backwards and did somersaults in order to make sure that the trial was fair. For 7 days he looked at these films and allowed the prosecution to present their case, allowed the defense to present their case.
You were there the whole time.
And immediately upon the decision, and immediately there was a release, not by the politicians themselves, but by the police department of all entities, attacking that judge for his decision, fully aware that that film was in their possession and having had the opportunity to review it. And that judge should not have been treated in that fashion. I think that he deserves an apology, and we must stand up and protect our judicial officials when they're doing their job correctly. When they're not, that's another story.
Well, here's the other part of this, and just let me add a couple of things which I think are important. One thing is that in the criminal procedure law, there's something called 7-10-30. What 7-10-30 means is that the defendants have made statements that the police want to use, the district attorney wants to use in trial. So if the defendant has made an admission of some sort, that admission has to be told to the defense before the trial. And the defense can question, did they really make that admission? What were the circumstances of that admission? Well, in this case, strangely enough, it was alleged that two of the defendants said, I know Judge Colkin, and he'll let me off. Now, this is by the same police officers who wrote all this nonsense. I spoke to these defendants, and they're telling me, what are you talking about? Who? We know who. We don't even know the names of the judges. That was done, in my opinion, by the police agency to try to set the judge up. Very simply. Now, this is a situation we have in Newburgh today. Let's play it out a little bit. We have a gentleman who came to our office 2 weeks ago. He owns an establishment in the city of Newburgh. He claims he was falsely arrested. His case is assigned to Judge Colkin. He has a right to a trial by Judge Colkin. Absolute right. How is Judge Colkin now supposed to hear his case when the police chief and the police department testimony is going to be there again? And they have violated the offense to attack the judge. Does this not compromise the judge? Isn't that its purpose and intention, to compromise the judge? So the district attorney can get up and say, well, Judge, you're in conflict with the police. You're going to be hearing police testimony. You can't be fair and impartial. Ms. Howard and then Mr. DeBar.
Yes, I'd like to just share this. Statements made this morning on the radio in reference to the fact that police should not be policing themselves, that it is a definite necessity for a special prosecutor. Also, they said that Commissioner Kelly was one of the major problems. Therefore, he's the head of the police, and as the head goes, so goes the body. If the head of the police has that mentality, then the rest of the police are going to follow accordingly. Now, they also said that there just seems to be a case study always in the black community. They also said that we need a special prosecutor brought in for New York State situations with the police. But they also said this is a national problem. And you know who said it? Let me tell you who made these statements. 100 black officers of law enforcement, Guardians Association, and Captain Kevin Summers, who is president of the New York City group of police. So this is not citizens saying this. These are police officers making these statements. And you know why they're making these statements? Because they're concerned about themselves. Because if this continues, you can best believe their lives are also in jeopardy. Because it's only going to be a certain point in time that we're going to see chaos happening in our streets. They also said the politicians need to be put on the carpet. Because the politicians are the ones who have the power to make sure that these changes are brought in. So I just wanted to share this with you, because this was not just regular citizens making these statements. These were police officers, and black police officers, by the way, which we don't have that many here in Newburgh. But I just wanted to share that with you, because this is going on all throughout the country. So think it not strange that this is happening in Newburgh. It is a mentality that is in existence throughout the land. And the people, the good people, the people who have a conscience, the people who have heart, if they don't stand up and start saying, we want things changed. We want a change in our society. And let me say in with this, not all police are guilty, but a large portion of them are.
I just wanted to go into the discussion of the responsibilities of the officers of the court involved, focusing on the judge as one. Review of New York's criminal code, the penal law, a number of other areas of New York state law, and the common law. There's an obligation on the district attorney to present truthful information, and in the event that the district attorney becomes aware that the information being presented as a part of their case is false or perjurious, they have an obligation, one, to withdraw it, and two, to prosecute the witnesses who are bringing forth perjury. And their failure to do that, and their cognizable introduction of perjurious evidence into a case, is a felony in and of itself committed by the district attorney, and it's something that should be prosecuted. Now, I made the city council aware of this, and aware of the fact that this was happening, and that this record was being made with these videos, in the city courtroom, to both the city manager, who is an attorney, and who has an obligation to act on it when she finds out that attorneys in her employ or that they're working with are committing crimes, and also to the city's corporation council. And I told them that if I didn't see them take action, that I was going to file a grievance, first against the ADA that's been doing this, and secondly against them. Nothing happened, so on Friday, I filed a grievance with the 9th Judicial District Grievance Committee against the ADA who handled this, and as soon as I can finish the letters Monday and Tuesday, I'll be doing it against Gene McGrain and the city's Corporation Council.
Thank you.
How's everybody doing tonight? I'd just like to put a little face on this meeting tonight, because I've been involved with this situation for the last 4 or 5 years, going back to was being Marine, and we working on this problem. And one of the things I'd like to take it back to is, like we can all sit here and point the blame and say the police chief, the police, what they're doing. But after being involved with this, I blame it on my community. Because my son has died. Miss Cobb's son died, and we'll take it back to 1990, when the police chief, when he was a patrolman, he killed a young man. And I'm not saying he woke up and intentionally meant to kill this young man, but the circumstances that happened, I feel if Ron Woods had did it, he wouldn't be the police chief. And so we oppose this appointment. And because we oppose this appointment, our group came under some circumstances, and I had to defend the lawsuits against the police department. And like I said, we've been out here in the street saying something about this, and nobody is saying nothing. It's not the police's fault. It's our fault. If they go out and kill somebody tomorrow, it's our fault because we're not saying that. You know, and we have these meetings, but we don't come up with solutions of what we have to do. And one of the things we have to do, we have to make our voices heard to understand that there's a problem when people are dying in the custody of our police department, who are supposed to serve and protect us. And this is, I know there's a lot of anger. I see Mr. McGill, he's very angry with the police chief, but we have to get angry at ourselves in our community. I just want to take it back. When Mr. Cobb's son, when he died, I was doing voter registration at the time, but also I met her son. I met her other son. And he asked me what was I doing. I told him about if anybody would like to know what happened with my son. And the reason I'm out here doing it is to stop it from happening to one of your children. That's why I'm out here registering to vote. And 2 days later, his brother was killed. But this young man, he registered to vote. But the point I was trying to say is that because nobody was saying nothing about my son, because nobody was saying nothing about Deontay Jones, because nobody said nothing about Kirk McMillan, because nobody's saying nothing. This is what happened to Mr. Cobb. This is what happened to Kevin Brown. This is what happened to Luke Ward. This is what happened to Deontay Jones. And like I said, you can say all day, place blame or whatever, but what are we going to do about it? What can we do? And one of the means I hope to come up out of this meeting is we can come up with some type of coalition to come up with a solution to this problem. Because it's not just about police killing people, it's about a condition that creates our kids to be put in this circumstance. The drugs on our street, the bad housing, the lack of jobs, $10 billion a month going to our credit. Come on, man, we have to understand that there's more to this than just police killing us. This is about us not standing up. Come on, man. I look at people and I say, man, gas is going up every day. I wouldn't, if I had a car, man, I wouldn't be buying gas for a while. I'd be walking. And I don't want to take up too much time because I can sit here all day and talk about this because of the process of what I have been doing. I have lost my son. And I'm still out here pleading with people to understand that this is not about my son. But we can't bring his son back, we can't bring my son back. But what we can stop is make sure it don't happen to this young man. We can make sure it don't happen to anybody in this room. We can make sure it don't happen to Mr. Carlson again. We can make sure it don't happen again. That's all we can do. We can't change what happened, but we can stop it from happening again.
Yeah, you want to say something? Yeah, I was involved in the incident. Just want to say thank you for coming from over here. You don't see Nick Valentine here. It's hiding time. She's hiding time. You're here, Tom. We want to know, as a community, what you plan to do with your officers. It's your job to see the lies and to discipline. You see the lies. You have to. If everyone else sees it, what do you plan to do? No one wants to fight with you. We don't want to fight with cops, but you need police that are legitimate. Cops are not.
No, essentially, it's your show.
All right. Gentlemen, can you say something here?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Andrew Moreno. I would like to say I have a strong sense of empathy for the families and this police department. Policing in this city is not as mature as we all know. A lot of problems exist, a lot of them have been inherited, some have come along. But when we talk about Judge Coker, because you did mention Judge Coker, And I happen to know Charlie Brown as an upstanding police officer.
Please, let him speak.
And when he went back and forth, he had mentioned personality, so let's be real about it. And if a judge is going to say to a police officer, oh, and I let so-and-so go after the damage, police vehicle, I mean, that makes the situation that much more tense. If indeed that's true.
The judge was saying.
Let him have this say, if anybody else wants to speak after him.
Well, what I'm saying is that there were police vehicles allegedly destroyed or damaged, I'm sorry. And this judge let these kids go. In all fairness, that's not a hole in the wall either.
Mr. Marino, if I could respond to that, because I think you're responding to what I said. And my name is George Figueroa, and I'm working with the community, and I also work at the farm. So the answer, I think, to that, because I think you're responding to what I said, and the fact of the matter is that Judge Culkin came in to the system and is a new judge. He's worked in the system for many, many years as an attorney. And the reality is that what you're saying was addressed. It was something that happened earlier on. And it goes to the reason that he's even more careful about what he's done. If he had a moment where he said something that was perhaps not understood correctly or maybe been taken out of context, whatever the situation is, it goes to making him a better judge now. And we're not talking about what happened when you had that situation. We're talking about what happened now. And the fact of the matter is that here we have convincing and compelling evidence. But let me finish. And in the face of that compelling video evidence, and in the face of the way Judge Culkin handled this case, which was, Michael has tried a lot of cases through the years, and everyone knows that. And I have seen a lot of legal proceedings as well. And I must tell you that Judge Culkin conducted himself to the highest standard possible, perhaps higher than any other legal proceeding that I've seen locally in Orange County. To his credit and to the credit of those people that elected him, because he's an elected official. And the issue that I have is that he was undermined in a way that was not appropriate. And in addition to that, the media picked up on that, and they did not bother to investigate, because a number of the people in the media did not even attend the trial. I speak from first-person experience. I was there every single day. And I can tell you this without any doubt.
Let's not get into a huge issue about Judge Culkin or not Judge Culkin. I think that the ultimate question which Mr. Yeagley asked about is, what is the accountability in the police department? And is it possible to restore a relationship between the community and the police department under the current situation? And that's what those who are in Newburgh particularly have to focus on moving ahead. And if it's not, how do we move beyond where we are? Now, someone wanted to speak, sir? Yes?
I just want to make this clear. First of all, some people may know who I am. I spent a lot of time in the city working with the kids. I'll tell you this much. You mentioned out of contact. I saw that video, and I'll tell you that there are things that are not there. It wasn't explained because of 5-second delay. So someone saying that someone punched the fence might not have been saw because of a 5-second delay. I saw the inside.
There's no 5-second delay on the Citgo. There's no 5-second delay on the Citgo. Finish it up.
Yeah. I'm talking about the first one.
The Citgo.
I saw the inside video from the Citgo. I've heard the 911 call from. What I'm saying is that it's easy to take things out of context. My concern is that it's a safety issue for me because I work with people. And when I'm constantly getting attacked, because I've chosen to take the route of trying to find a solution and stop dwelling on all the old wounds. It's kind of becoming a pain in my butt. There's always talk about how to move forward. There are more voices in this community than the ones that always talk. Some of us have just chosen to go about it a different way. I've had my ups and I'm trying to appeal the case that got their fellas. I understand that the judicial system is screwed. I've been on the road, but I work well with the police department because I have decided that we're not going to get nowhere. This is incentive to me because I have to now worry about do I want to be seen coming from a meeting with the police department because I'm concerned that I got kids out and I don't want dogs sicked on them. I got parents calling me because there's a team party and I get there and there's officers and I see something. So now I have to be worried, do I want to talk to the police or try and engage them in a positive manner for what someone may see that as working with the police department? I've heard it 3 times since I've been here, that there are those who work for the police department that don't see it. I've chosen to work on solutions. There are a lot of things happening. There are things that are out of my control. I don't choose to deal with the things that I can't control. I choose to deal with the things that happen in the community. I choose to deal with the kids who are talking about the gun play. Because I feel that if I can stop them, I'll curtail the number of incidents that the police are responding to. So, because I choose to do it that way, every time I turn around, there's nothing happening in that city. There are a lot of voices in the city. Some people don't want to speak up because we may be afraid that if we talk to the police department in a helpful manner, that there's going to be repercussions to it. And the reason we don't have more black officers, if people want to be truthful, because my culture founds upon somebody becoming a police officer. So why would a kid that has a good school record, who needs a job, because police officers are already going to be here, and I said, listen, think about law enforcement. They look at me like, are you serious? They'd rather go drive a garbage truck than to do it, because it's a stigma. So, I mean, I work in the criminal justice system, and I talk to kids, I guarantee you, I talk to just 300 kids a week about career choices. And law enforcement is the last one. So if we're going to move this, I want to make sure there's positive dialogue, that there are individuals that are working to do something, to maintain with the individuals who don't. If we're going to have a coalition, all voices have to be heard. Can't just be one thing.
You know, there's a problem, the fundamental problem is this. The notion that you can read these police reports, watch a gentleman who's not being handcuffs being taken off of him, who's walking to the scene, and read a police report that says, on his handcuffs being released, he started fighting with the police, and not be outraged. In my mind, is outrageous. Hold on. Just hold on. Nobody interrupting you. Hold on. It's outrageous. Now, the truth, you can't move to positive solutions unless you can express outrage and unless those in power start dealing with the situation. Those in this city are not dealing with the situation. They're not dealing with the situation. They act like nothing's happening. Which is not a way to start anybody. And you can't simply say, we're not interested in what happened in the past, we're just going to positive solutions. Positive solutions are never going to come on any issue unless people recognize what's happened and own up to it. That's the first step. And that ain't happening in Newburgh. What's happening in Newburgh is a continued state of denial. Continued state of denial.
Yeah, it seems to me that you have to consider the past because things are just escalating. Now, in the town of Wallfield, we had cops that went around and harassed women when they gave out traffic tickets, and for some reason, that seemed to be more important to the Attorney General's office than murder and mayhem. So they did an investigation. The police department was under the order of the court to have a special federal monitor. I helped by bringing some of the things out to the public, and I work with the police department. I work with them on Night Out Against Crime, but at town board meetings I tell them, you know, I'll support my police department, but the moment they violate someone's rights, I'll be the first one at the town board meeting asking that the officer be prosecuted. And you cannot be conciliatory about that. Now, I'm shocked at Mr. Marino's comments about how he can support the police department after he sees clear evidence of perjury. I wouldn't support that police department. I'd be asking that those officers be charged with criminal perjury.
Let's fight
think if everyone in the room here called up the Attorney General's office and explained what was going on, that maybe continued phone calls to the Attorney General's office might get something going.
Ms. Cobb, you next.
Yes, I just want to say that when what's your name is, Mr. McLean, when you had asked the chief of police, did he have any comment about what he was going to do about it? And he said no. He's not going to do anything. He's the head of the organization. So what is he? I mean, what's going to happen? He ain't got nothing to say. The only reason why he's here to see what we got to say against his police officers. When my son was killed, he said that his police officers didn't do nothing wrong. And they're going to take my son from 27 Carter Street, pass by St. Luke's Hospital, take him down to the police department in a hot garage that day when it was 101 degrees and leave him in there and he's hot. Come on, what's your problem? It's got to end. And I don't even know where all the people is that's supposed to be with us. Where are they? There's never nothing going to be done because they don't stick together. What we got to do, sell food or give them food for them to come out? You know what? My son's anniversary is coming up in July. And we're going to have a block party. And I'm going to cook. The whole street is going to cook. We're going to see if we can have something done there. I'm going to see how many people are going to show up there.
They should be prosecuted the way they would prosecute me if I did what they did.
I have two suggestions that I've repeated and I'm repeating again tonight. Okay, here are the two suggestions. Number one, at every single city council meeting, those of you who are here have to bring 2 or 3 other people. You must appear at the meeting and you must speak at the meeting to these issues. You must explain, and you can have these as public documents, what's in these police reports. You must demand that there be a public viewing, and they have better equipment than we have, so the entire city council can see from start to finish what's on these tapes. That has to be done at the city council, the public meeting. At one of their work sessions, they should see the tape from beginning to end, and that should be demanded. The police chief should be in attendance at that meeting. Lieutenant Lee should be in attendance at that meeting. Lieutenant Lee should be asked to explain, where is the violent lunge? There's no violent lunge. Let him explain it publicly. Okay?
I'd like to know, where is your mayor? Where is your city council people? Where's your city manager?
Okay, let's play the next point. The next point. Wait a minute. The next point. He's over there. Please. They're right over there. Okay, just please keep it on a level the best you can. The next thing that has to be done is that the Attorney General of the state of New York and the governor have got to be approached to appoint a special prosecutor, which the law does allow. Mr. Phillips has to be approached to request the appointment of a special prosecutor, which the law does allow, so that in fact there can be real inquiry into these events. Okay, those are the 2 things that have to happen. As far as I'm concerned, it takes everybody doing it. It takes the Democratic Alliance, it takes the Ministerial Fellowship, it takes you as individuals to do it. I agree. The next council meeting is?
Monday.
Okay? We're Saturday night. Mr. Shakur.
Yeah, one of the solutions that New Voters Movement, what we have been working on since 2005, we have registered over 1,000 people within our community. That's a long-term plan. But now, like we're trying to blame this man, he has a boss. He has a city council and a mayor that's accountable for this man. If we had 50 people protest in front of City Hall for 2 weeks or down at the waterfront for 2 weeks, guaranteed our problems will be solved. But we have to make our voices heard. And so one of the solutions we're working on, we have a petition coming out asking for a special prosecutor to come in here and see about these conditions we're talking about. And we're working on bringing this protest in front of City Hall or down at our waterfront before the next 60 days. We're working on bringing some people. It's a shame that the only people from our community and basically our families that has happened to.
And write it down, Courtney. Write it taking this to the streets.
And take it to the board.
Taking it to the streets. In fact, that's what the police said on the radio today. The only way this thing is going to change, you got to go to the streets.
Now, here's another point I want to make. Okay, wait a minute. You've heard tonight about one case. Primarily, please calm down. And what I want to do in the next couple of minutes is report to you about one other case. Because we don't have video of this case, we just have the courtroom testimony of 2 Newburgh police officers. The gentleman involved in this case is named Chris Allen. He's an African-American, 26-year-old college graduate. He's at 26 Front Street. He comes out of the facility. His friends walks one way, he walks another way. He sees an individual he knows being arrested. He goes over toward the individual, and the guy is fighting, struggling. He says, calm down. It's okay. Don't create a fuss. It's okay. I'm going to come back to the police station. I'll deal with it. I'll bail you out. Don't worry. The next thing he knows is the 2 police officers literally jump him, push him to the ground, knock his head against the concrete, start stomping on him. Police officers then charge Mr. Allen. They charge Mr. Allen with resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, harassment, all the usual charges. There's a trial. At the trial, the 2 police officers could not get out of each other's way. One would say X, the other would say Y. One would say A, the other would say B. They gave totally contradictory accounts of what this gentleman did. Meanwhile, the former president of the school board's son, a Caucasian, came to court, had known Mr. Allen since Mr. Allen was 5 years old, said about Mr. Allen he's a peace-loving, calm individual. The depiction that you're hearing from these police is crazy. Judge Ramsey took 5 minutes to acquit him of all the charges. Okay? This happened 3 weeks before this trial. The police department, the testimony was contradictory with the police reports. One officer contradicted another in rare marked regard. It was a parody. I walked out of there literally thinking to myself, this is a joke. Then we came to this trial. Okay? And there'll be other trials. And you ask how things could change? And there's going to come a time when the district attorney's office in Orange County is not going to want to go to trials with this police department. Because they're not going to be able to believe any of the reports, the witnesses, the police officer witnesses cannot competently testify, they can't withstand cross-examination, and they are committing, as DeBar said earlier, perjury time after time. That's another way it's going to be resolved. Is that good for law enforcement in the city? No, it's terrible. It's terrible. It's the worst thing in the world. That's what's going to happen. So it's going to come to a head one way or the other. Ms. Bell.
Just a question. Is any reporter here from the Mid-Hudson Times?
Is there a reporter from the Mid-Hudson Times?
There was no reporter from the Mid-Hudson Times. It was all just written.
No, there was no reporter ever at the Mid-Hudson Times. I think they got the police chief's press release. That's the predicate of their editorial. Absolute ignorance. They didn't sit in the trial, nor did he, as I said earlier, sit in the trial.
In the Times Herald record, we only have one paper represented.
He's here, and he came to the trial for about 10 minutes during the trial. He had other things he was doing. Yes?
And that story is addressed this.
One of the problems a lot of people have they don't know what to go to.
You have to speak up. We can't hear you.
There's some way we can get a hotline set up with some legal advice available so people would know what to do in situations too. A lot of people don't know what to do in situations and how to interact with police departments. So we have to have a comprehensive thing that is going to take both sides of what can we do. Because they're not going to do nothing. They're not going to, they've been talking about this fight for the last 4 or 5 years. They're not going to do nothing. What are we going to do? That is what we get the result when we stand up and when we do something.
You started doing something very valuable. You started actually going to police incidents and taping what was going on. And I know that engendered a lot of problems, controversy, but it's a way. What we're talking about tonight has only one word. It's only one word for all of us. That's accountability. It's accountability. If you're going to write somebody up and you're going to criminally prosecute them, you better be able to come into court and give an account of what happened that's credible. You better have a police report that's consistent with what happened, not some fabrication. There are basic levels of accountability. Remember that when a judge or a jury adjudicates this case, the standard is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And what is happening in all of these cases, and there are going to be more of them, is there is an extraordinary amount of doubt as to whether the account being given by this police is accurate and worthy of trust. Now, I am going to do one other thing. Some people have come in. I promised the person who came late, who struggled to get here, that we were going to play at least some of this again. We're going to turn the lights off. The rest of you, we're adjourned. It's 10 to 8. Thank you for coming. Anyone who wants to stay can stay.
It's all packed up.
You put it all away?
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry. It'll be on Video Google by Monday. If you go Video Google, look up Newburgh Police, you'll see it.
It's on YouTube.
That's too long. Well, I'll put a link. In fact, I think I already did put a link at YouTube. So if you look Newburgh Police at YouTube, it'll let you link to the. Say again?
I got it for it.
Put in Newburgh Police. I think.
I look at the Newburgh Police brutality. There's a lot of stuff on there.
There was something. I had an exact term I used. You know what? I'll get it on DeBar. Or type in Sean Bell.
I did. It's not on there.